Welcome to another tutorial. In this tutorial, we learn about databases in general and about Microsoft Access database in particular. Microsoft Access is a relational database management system designed primarily for home or small business usage. Access is known as a desktop database system because its functions are intended to be run from a single computer. This is in contrast to a server database application such as SQL Server, where it is intended to be installed on a server then accessed remotely for multiple client machines. Specifically, this tutorial introduces you to the following. Number one, we have the general idea behind a database, learning a new database, creating a database template, adding records to a new existing database, viewing the data in a database, creating entries and record from a database. We have an overview of the database concept. The database components of Microsoft Office is designed to act as an intelligent electronic filing cabinet. Like a manual filing cabinet, it enables you to collect a set of related data and keep the data organized. Update the data once you have corrected them by adding or deleting records and by changing existing record. An electronic filing cabinet, such as the database, allows you to also easily and quickly use the data, sort them, create reports, merge the data, and with other documents and so forth. Another question to ask ourselves is how a database is organized. Access is an object-oriented relational database management system. Within files, different terminologies is used to describe the organization of data depending on the type of file in question. For example, word processed files tend to organize data in paragraphs and sentences. Spreadsheet files organize the data in rows and columns. Database files organize the data into records and fields. And I am going to show you a good example of what I mean. We have the Access database objects. And number one, we have a table. A table is an object which represents the data in rows and columns, rather like a spreadsheet. For this reason, when you view a table in Access database, you are in what Access refers to as a datasheet view. And then we have queries. Queries is an object which makes a request to the database to find some set of data that is stored in the database. And then we have a form, another object. A form is an object which gives the user another view of the data in a database, whereas a table allows the user to view multiple records at once. A form displays the content of just one record at a time. And then we have a report. A report is an object which is designed based on the data in the database and which is used to inform the user of the selected contents of the database. And then another object is a macro. A macro is a sequence of instructions which can be carried out with a single click of the mouse button on a button in a toolbar or by pressing a key or keys on the keyboard. And then you have a page. A page is a special type of web page designed for viewing and working with data from the internet. This access feature is beyond the scope of this tutorial. Finally, another access object is called module. A module is a collection of programming procedures designed to give programmer control over the Access database look and feel. The objects that we are going to cover are table, queries, forms, reports, and macros. In this tutorial, we are going to learn about a table, and we interact with several elements that comprise a table. We said a table is an object which stores data in row and column format. A table is usually related to other tables in the database file. Each column must have a unique name. We can also define primary key in a table. But before we begin, we said we are going to learn how to plan a new database. And I have a good example. Here we have an example of a database, and we are going to use this to design the objects that we have mentioned. And it's clear of how you design a template. I have used different colors to represent different components. This green represents the database name that I have used. We are going to use a hospital to create a database. And then under that, we have some tables that you're going to include. We have a patient table, we have a doctor's table, and we have a medicine table. And you can see I've represented the tables in this color, and you can call them tables or tuples. And the tables will include fields, these ones that we have here. The patient will have patient ID, patient name, all the way to doctor's ID, which will be a foreign key, but we'll cover that. And then we have doctor's record. In the doctor's record, we have certain fields that are included. In the medicine, we have some fields included. On this other slide, I have the records themselves. You can see here, I've used doctor's table. And under the doctor's table, we had the fields, which are here. Under them, we have now the records, which are indicated here. Like, for example, you have D001, which represents the doctor ID. And then the first name of the doctor is Philip. The last name of the doctor is Jenga. Gender is male. Department is cardiology. So this is an example of the records. Hope you have understood. So we'll have a database, we'll have tables, and then we'll have fields to include, and then we have records. So these make up a database. And then out of the table that we have, we'll be able to create queries, and we'll be able to create forms, and also we'll be able to create reports. How to start Microsoft Access? It's very easy. You have to come to Start. Mine is already here, but you can search by writing Microsoft Office Access 203, or maybe if you're using another version like this one, you could just choose that. I'm going to use 203. When you open, it's going to prompt you to this window. You can see it's blank. If you want to open a new database, you're going to come to File, and then you click New. Or you could press Ctrl N on your keyboard, or you could press this, or you could come here and create a new file. I'm just going to create a new file here, and it's going to prompt you with this window here, and I'm going to create a new blank database here. You press, and when you press, it's going to ask you to save your file. We are going to call it hospital database. And then after you have given it a name, you're going to create. Now, after you create, it's going to prompt you with this window. And on this side, you can see the objects that we are talking about are well represented here. You have tables, you have queries, you have forms, you have reports, you have pages, macros, modules. In this tutorial, we're going to cover about tables, and we are going to learn how to create a table and how to do other things like sorting, freezing, hiding some columns, adjusting columns, etc. We have some elements, and here we have the menu bar. Here we have the standard toolbar. And then this window is the one that is going to help us to create the objects that we mentioned. And then over here we have minimize, and then we have maximize, Then you have maximize, and then you have close. This is for closing the window. Now, I think we are going to start by creating the tables that we have. We said we are going to use this example of a hospital database, and we are going to include patient records, doctor's record, and medicine records. How do you create a table? We have three ways you can create a table. You can create a table using design view. You can create a table using wizard. You can create a table by entering data. In this tutorial, we are going to create a table in design view. You are going to click here, or you can click here. And when you double click, it's going to prompt you with this window. We're going to first create a table for the doctor. And since we have a template here, we're going to use it to create. I'm going to come back to this window and we start entering data. We start with doctor's records. In doctors, we have the doctor ID. Doctor ID. Here is where you enter the field name, the one that we talked about, the doctor ID. And then we have the data type. We have several. We have text, we have memo, we have number, date and time, currency, auto number, yes or no, OLE object, hyperlink, and we have lookup wizard. These are the data type of certain field name. I'm going to explain how each and every data type work or when you use it. Text include numbers which does not need calculation, example mobile numbers, names, etc. Then we have number. A number is a numeric data used for storing mathematical calculations. Then you have the date and time, this one. Date and time stores date, time for years from 100 through 9,999. And then we have currency. It allows you to store currency values and numerical data, each 1 to 4 decimal places. And then we have auto number. Auto number assign a unique number or assigned by Microsoft Access when any new record is created, usually used as the primary key. And then you have yes or no. Yes or no, it only stores logical values, yes and no. For example, if you are asking somebody, are you a male? A yes or no question. And then we have the OLE object. OLE object can store audio, video, other binary, large objects. And then we have the hyperlink. Hyperlink stores combination of text and numbers. That text is used as hyperlink address. And then we have the lookup wizard. That one we won't cover for now. And for now, the doctor's ID, since we are going to use a mixture of both numbers and letters, we are going to use text. And then we'll have doctor's first name. You separate using an underscore. And how do you add an underscore? You press shift on your keyboard and minus. And it's going to create underscore. And then you write first name. First name is under text because it combines letters and maybe symbols. And then we have doctor, last name, text, we have gender, text, and then we have department, text, Now we have a primary key. Primary key uniquely identifies a certain record. For example, we used doctor's ID as a primary key. What that means is when you enter a certain record, in that table, you won't repeat that record again. That's what we mean by uniquely identify a certain record. Other examples of data that you can use as a primary key include the ID number, which is unique for everybody. Phone number is unique to everybody. Email address is unique from one person to the other. So you're going to select, and then you're going to add primary key here, or you could right click on it and add primary key. Simple as that. How to save your table? You can save it from here. You click there, and then you're going to give your table a name. You're going to call it doctor table. Then you press OK. And then you can close. And now you can see here you have a doctor's table. When you open it, you will see here you have the field name indicated on top here. If you want to adjust this doctor's first name so that they can be seen clearly, you come here at the intersection and you're going to see this plus sign icon. You press the leftmost button, then you drag on your right until it is visible, like that. Now we have field name, but we don't have the records. We are going to come back to it. Now let's create the other two tables. We use a design view. We have patient. I'm going to fast forward so that we can save time. You can notice I've included medicine ID and doctor's ID, and they exist in other two tables for the doctors and for the medicine. Medicine ID, I'm going to use medicine ID as a primary key, and doctor's ID, I've used it as a primary key. In this instance, they appear in patient's table as foreign key. A foreign key is a set of attributes in a table that refers to the primary key of another table. The foreign key links these two tables. Now let's save our table. Here, you click save, and then we close, and we have the patient table. Now let's create the other one. Create table in design view. Medicine ID. Medicine name. Their data type will be text, since we use a mixture of numbers and letters and some symbols. And then this will be our primary key. And then you're going to save it. We call it medicine. Table. Then you say OK. And then now we close. Now we are going to enter data to our tables or the records. Now we start with doctor's table. Here we have several fields. We have doctor ID, we have doctor's first name, doctor's last name, gender, and department. We are going to specify some records, and they are going to be random. And for the doctor ID, I'm going to use D, represent doctor, and give them a serial number, random. Let me start with D201, first name, Alan Koech. If you want to edit, you just have to click inside and rectify, mail, department, anesthetics. The second record is now let me explain something. In this column where you have doctor's ID, you notice that all these numbers are unique to each other, and that's why I chose it as our primary key. Now let's see what happens when I duplicate one of the records, D001 or 2, and I come and add some details. When I come to the next record, it's going to display this error message, and it says the changes you requested to the table are not successful because they would create a duplicate value in the index, comma, primary key, comma, or relationship. Change the data in the field or fields that contain duplicate data, remove the index or redefine the index to permit duplicate entries, and try again. That means you have repeated your primary key and it should be unique. Now maybe we should change this to D0011. Now we don't have that error because now we have a clean record where you don't have duplicates in doctor's ID. That's what we mean by a primary key. It should be unique. If you want to delete this record, you just select it, hit click, delete record, and yeah, okay. Now let's go to the medicine table. We have medicine ID and medicine name. I'm going to use M and then a serial. And we are done. Right in the records, you save, and then you say yes, or you could come here and save and then close. And then now we have this patient table. Now we have the 3 tables. Here where we have date of birth, we can come to design view, and we could come here, date of birth, and here under format, we could specify the format that we want. I want to use this medium date, and when you do that, then for the appointment date, let's use medium date format, medium. And then when you finish, you save, you close, and then you save, yes. And let's continue. Date of birth, appointment date, medicine ID. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to resize this window. Then we open these two tables. Now I want to create a relationship between the three tables. We are going to give medicine and a doctor's ID randomly. So under medicine ID, we are going to give maybe that patient was given this medicine. I said it's random, and maybe the patient was treated by this doctor. That way. The three tables have the records. Now when you enter in this doctor's table and maybe you want to add another column, you just come to design view and then you come down here and then you can add. Maybe if you wanted that record to be in between the gender and department, you could come here, right click, you select first, you select, I come in here, then you right click, then you press insert row. It's going to insert a new row. You can add a record and specify the data type, and then when you finish, you can save and then close. Now when you open, you're going to see it and you're going to add the records, but for now I want to add a new column. We said if you want to adjust, you have to look for this and you can drag the column either inwards or inside. And then if you want to sort the data, you have to select. If you want to sort using maybe first name, you select, and then you come here or you come to records and then you come to sort, and then you sort in descending order. Now you can see the name have started from Zephaniah to Agnes. And then if you want to sort again in ascending, you're going to select ascending, just come here. Okay, now I hope it's clear. The other thing that we can do with this is to maybe define that we have doctor's first name and doctor's last name, and you want to start with doctor's last name, you have to select and then you drag all the way to where you want to put it. If you want it to be the last one, drag and then you bring it there. But let's return it. So you drag and then use this black line to guide you, and then you put it there and you're done. The other thing that we can learn is how to copy a table. If you want to copy this doctor's table, you just have to right click and then you copy and then you paste. Going to copy. Now it's going to ask you to put a name, and we can say doc copy, and then we say okay. We have a doctor's copy, and here it is. That's how you create a copy. Now let's delete it. You just press delete key on your keyboard, and this message is going to prompt you to say yes, and you're done. Now, I hope you have understood about tables. We have already known how to create tables, how to add columns of the fields, and how to add records inside the field names. Let's meet in the other lesson where you learn about queries. Goodbye.